The world is electronic. Everything happens in an electronic way, in the cloud. Us journalists have to adapt to that world, the same that businesses are adapting to that world. And that means for us that we are receiving more and more information in an electronic format. So for example, in our latest investigation, the Panama Papers, we had to deal with a leak of 2.6 terabytes of information, which meant it was the biggest leak in journalism history. That has meant that we have had to adapt and use technology to our benefit to be better investigators. And 2 years ago, we created a team of developers that work with us, reporters, to do better investigations. Thanks to the use of technology, we've been able to put the documents in the cloud so that reporters from all over the globe, around 80 countries, have looked into the files and find stories. We've also been able to put up tools in the cloud to explore graphically, to support visually those connections. And I think that technology has only helped us be better investigators. And that is something that has helped us journalists, but it can help any company dealing with global issues, with global teams. And of course, help tax authorities, governments, and anybody that is trying to tackle crime and corruption, because crime and corruption works at a global scale too. In journalism, we try to do information that is always in the public interest, no matter what the sources of the information are. So that's what we tried to do with Panama Papers. We received the leak of 2.6 terabytes, and we investigated that leak with a big team for a year. Of course, the fact that everything is electronic and that people are leaving an electronic trace in their lives helps us as investigators to do better work. What we try to do is be ethical with every information we received. So, for example, the 11.5 million files that we investigated for Panama Papers are not dumped online because there's a lot of private information like passports, bank accounts, that we didn't want to put in the public domain because it's private information. So we always have ethical dilemmas of how much to put out to the internet and how can we use the internet information ethically so that it allows us to do better investigations, but always in the public interest. In the Panama Papers and in the previous leaks that are connected to the offshore world that we've worked with at ICIJ, we have been exposing a parallel system that was unknown before in such a depth. Which is the offshore system. It's this parallel economy that is being used by the powerful and the people that have a lot of money, and that has a direct impact in today's economy and inequality. And what we've tried to do is not only expose names of people, but also expose how the system works, what is systemic about this problem. And some of the key players in the system are not the users, it's not the celebrity, it's not the rich person that has a company offshore or a bank account in a tax haven. It's actually the intermediaries that funnel the system, the enablers. And banks have played a big role in enabling the offshore world. In the Panama Papers, we exposed that more than 500 banks had asked to create around 16,000 companies in tax havens to their clients. And we're talking about major banks, HSBC, UBS, in Spain, for example, Santander Bank or BBVA. So these major players, which are banks that have a lot of influence in the world, have been basically enablers of this system. And not only that, their activities and their requests of offshore companies, for example, through Mossack Fonseca, the intermediary that helped create these companies, had a big spike in 2005, which coincides in time with the application of a European law that actually asked banks to withhold taxes, and only if it was a person, not if it was a legal entity. So there you have the explanation of the rise of the banks. I think that thanks to the Panama Papers, there are a lot of actions happening. So the regulators in different countries have asked banks to look themselves in the public data that ICIJ published in offshoreleaks.icij.org. And right now, there's a lot of talk about what type of regulations and how much disclosure should these banks give to these regulators when they use offshore. The best way to ensure authenticity is not to just get something and just publish it. It's to work on it and try to corroborate with other sources. When we received the 2.6 terabytes from our colleagues in Germany at Süddeutsche Zeitung, we formed a global team of more than 370 reporters to actually look at those files for a year. And we not only just looked at the leaked files, we also looked at public records, court records. We talked to people, to experts. We talked to the people in the data. And for us, doing that legwork, that on-the-ground reporting, and this corroboration with other types of records has been the best way to corroborate the authenticity of this very specific leak. It's a pity that there's not better legislation to protect whistleblowers. I think that we depend on them to know about issues that happen behind closed doors and that need to be exposed. And right now, the protection in many different countries is very weak. The source of the Panama Papers, John Doe, is anonymous exactly because of that. John Doe said in a statement a couple of weeks ago that he or she would like to help governments, but in order to do that, he or she would need to come out of the closet and basically expose who he or she is. And the problem is that there's not enough protection for people like that disclose secrets. And the Snowden case is the best case. He publicly came out and explained that he was the whistleblower, and now he has to live miles away from his country in Russia because, you know, he doesn't have a passport anymore to travel and he doesn't have any protection. So I think that there's a lot more that needs to be done to protect whistleblowers, and I hope we move towards that direction and not in the opposite. Right now, we have two of the whistleblowers that are connected to a previous investigation in the ICIJ. They're facing prison sentence in Luxembourg. Even one journalist is actually also connected to that court case. And I think that's outrageous. And from the ICIJ, we condemn any actions that are being done against the freedom of whistleblowers. I find it fascinating coming from journalism, where we are a lot of women, the fact that there are not so many women in technology, and the fact also that even in investigative journalism, there are not so many women. What we found at ICIJ, actually being half women and half men, is that, you know, our different perspectives, our different skills play out very well and nicely together. I think that at the ICIJ, we have the deputy director, that is a woman. I'm the head of a team of programmers and journalists, and I also have two other women in my team. And I think that, you know, the same that different skills play out in a team very nicely, I think that different genders play out very nicely, and we bring different perspectives. I found very interesting how sometimes some male-dominated cultures have just too much testosterone, and there's so much clash. And for example, I've tried to find, some skills within me to actually break sometimes those conflicts. So I think that it's the same, like, you know, having programmers that dominate different types of technology is helpful in the same team. I think that, of course, having different genders is always enriching, and I hope to see more women in technology and more women in investigative journalism so that we are, you know, building better products together. I think that we were very interested in creating a team that trusted each other. I think trust was at the core of everything we've done, and it's very important to understand that you're part of a team, and that you are the person that tells that secret to somebody else, you're breaking that trust. And I think that building a group of trust and people that trust each other is key, so that if you feel, part of something and a bigger goal, then you're not going to betray your own people. And I think that was the key of why we kept this a secret, and we're able to keep this a secret for a year. The main challenge we face when using technology is lack of resources. Our tech team is a 3-people developer team, but 2 years ago we didn't have any developers, so we're growing. I think that we are very similar to any startup where, we're small, we're trying to grow as much as we can, but we have a small team that has to do everything. So I think that right now it would be great if we could have more developers. Of course, that's also connected to funds. And ICIJ is a non-profit center. We rely on donations from big foundations and from individuals. So we try to get more funds, but we're relying on people that want to donate. So actually, that's why everywhere I go, I remind people, if you like what we do, please donate to us. It's as simple as going to donate.icij.org and give us as much money as you can. And of course, if you're a big philanthropist and want to give us millions of dollars, more than welcome. So I'm fascinated at the fact that there's companies in the startup world here in Málaga. Málaga is the hometown of my dad, and I find fascinating that we're having this amazing event in the south of Spain with so many great people and leading experts from the technology world. I was honored to be invited, and I'm learning a lot with all these people from different parts of the world that are exchanging views about technology. That's why when I was called, I'm like, of course, if I can help from my humble opinion as a journalist who is fascinated with technology and the power of technology.